What's up, guys? Dr. Seth back to solve more of your problems. And you specifically, if you are the dude that messaged me about brachialis pain lowering his bench press, because, well, first, I needed a YouTube video to make it because it's been too long. And second, this is kind of a neat topic to talk about, so I'm going to talk about it. So if we are dealing with what you're calling brachialis pain, the first thing I want to caution people on is that we shouldn't always be so quick to say that pain is a result of a single structure or what is happening at a single structure, because pain is multifactorial in nature, and there is so much more to pain than what is going on at a structure, at the structural level. And if we're thinking about tissue damage, we don't even need to go that far. All we can really say, if we're going to keep things simple, is that pain is a result of us perceiving, consciously or subconsciously, threat at a given body part at a given specific instance, and it is our interpretation of threat there that is going to cause that experience of pain, along with a host of other things. But this is not a pain science video, so we're going to keep it simple and talk about elbow shit during bench press. So if we are thinking about why the hell is my elbow hurting during a bench, well, back to what I just said, we can realize that we are perceiving threat at the elbow for some reason. We are perceiving the risk of damage, we are perceiving potential damage, we are perceiving that damage may occur or may be occurring when we are lowering that bar. Now, it doesn't matter if that damage is actually happening, if the damage is realistic. If that threat is realistic, what matters is that the perception of threat is there. So we need to influence that perception of threat, and while influencing that perception of threat, we can take care of things on the tissue side, on the tolerance side, on the getting stronger side, all at the same time if we do it the correct way. So when we're lowering a bench press bar, what is happening at the elbow? Well, obviously the elbow is bending with load in the hand, right? So as we are lowering that bar, the tricep is going to have to contract to kind of catch that load and control the rate of elbow bending, elbow flexion, because the tricep is going to be trying to work to push the elbow straight. So as we're lowering the bar, the tricep is going to be contracting eccentrically to control that. But if we're having pain in the flexor compartment, if we're having pain in the brachialis, obviously you're like, well, Seth, it probably isn't just the tricep. Yeah, I'm gonna get there. So what's happening with the elbow flexors, the things that go elbow bendy, the biceps, the brachialis, the brachioradialis, they're also gonna be contracting when you're lowering the bench press bar. Because if you have a joint, you got muscles on both sides of it. And just because the elbow extends doesn't mean that that's all triceps. Just because the elbow's flexing under load doesn't mean that that's all biceps and that's all flexors, because muscles rarely contract in isolation. And if we're having complex movement, we're going to have contractions on both sides of the joint with a concept called co-contraction, which allows us to better control the movement and allows us to be more precise. Because if we have contraction on both sides, we can have the triceps catching the weight, and we can have the biceps, the brachialis, the brachioradialis contracting to meter what the triceps are doing and make sure that we're not going to just go all tricep and blast the weight off to the side, dump it down, or yada, 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 right? So the stuff on the flexor side is going to be resisting the triceps to a degree, not to an extreme degree, but to a degree to allow us to better control our rate of elbow flexion while lowering our bench press bar, right? So if we're having problems with lowering the bench press bar, it's not just the triceps, it's not just elbow flexion, it's our ability to control elbow flexion and control our rate of elbow flexion while under load and while contracting eccentrically at the tricep. So how are we going to get better at that? Well, we're going to train elbow flexion. We're going to get better at bending our elbows. And I get shit on fairly often by people when I answer the AMA questions on the story by saying that, like, oh, my elbow hurts, well, get better at bending your elbow. And that's really as simple as it is in essence. And like, obviously we can apply more strategy to that. We can make things more complex if we have reason to, but if we're keeping it plain and simple, get better at bending your elbow and you will get better at being able to bend your elbow. And the reason I say that is like, if we're perceiving threat while lowering a bench press bar, while our elbow is flexing, it's just gonna be a matter of building up our tolerance to elbow flexion over time so we can reduce our perception of threat with flexion. We reduce that perception of threat, we reduce our pain experience, right? And as we're building up that tolerance, as we're reducing that sensitivity, as we're reducing that perception of threat, if we do that, and if we listen to our bodies while we're doing that, we're also going to build up a tissue tolerance, we're also going to mitigate potential damage, and we're going to make our tissue stronger so that we can handle more in the future. And obviously the answer can be more complicated than just scaling your bench loading to allow you to do so. And I always like to get guys to do work outside of pressing to build up that tolerance at the elbow. And one of my favorite things for this is a rolling dumbbell extension, because it allows us to use a relatively heavy weight. It allows us to get a large degree of elbow flexion, a large degree of tricep length, and it allows us to build control through that range with a decently heavy dumbbell as we are doing it. And I say decently heavy, I usually advise guys to start in a higher rep range and really control it, really feel the contraction, really feel the flexor compartment working as well as the extensor compartment, and really just try to put it in muscles and don't just throw the weight around like an asshole. And in doing so, that is going to help you build that perception of control and reduce that perception of threat, so your elbows will feel better. Now, if you want to get a little bit more specific to benching, we can ask, well, really, what is the elbow doing during a bench? Well, the tricep shoving the elbow through to push the hand out against the bar to lock that arm out, right? So if we think about that, we can then go, okay, how can we train the elbow and the tricep in that action? And in doing that, we can go like, okay, well, let's look at a Tate press. A Tate press, dumbbell in, elbow through, right? Bench press, barbell down, elbow through. So a Tate press is pretty much the action that we want during a bench. So that can be a really, really good way to build that tolerance and build that ability to control elbow flexion, very specific to benching. And that is why Tate presses are one of my all-time favorite elbow builders, tricep builders for increasing bench strength. And obviously we don't just need to look at loading into flexion, we can actually look at doing bicep work, we can look at doing curls, we can look at doing things to directly strengthen that flexor compartment as well. But it's going to be a mix of training both extension and flexion to get those elbows better. So scale your bench training so you're not pissing things off too much. Do things outside of bench training to build up those elbows, and those elbows are going to feel better. And really, it is as simple as get better at bending your elbows and you will be better at bending your elbows. So guys, hopefully that helped you. If not, shoot me a message, book an appointment. I'm here to help, and don't be afraid of training. Thank you for watching.